Good to have you with us on this podcast. Ed Schultz news and commentary on this Wednesday edition, the day after the big speech, and it was a big speech by the President of the United States.
All right, Ed, what did you make? Everybody looked at this speech and said, Trump seems more presidential. He seemed to put all the weird things aside, like the media talk, the Electoral College talk. Did he really help himself out today?
I think he did, and I think that he showed the American people that he has a level of discipline that maybe many Americans didn't expect. He knew the stage, he knew the severity of it. There was a tone of seriousness that we have not seen from the president. And I was struck by how aware President Trump was on how he won the White House. And I want to go back for a moment to how Barack Obama won re-election. The steelworkers went to Barack Obama in 2011 and basically gave him a narrative to run on, to get reelected against Romney, against the Republicans, even before Romney was the candidate to the nominee for the Republicans. They pounded on the middle class. They pounded on the term outsourcing. I remember going to Lafayette, Illinois, and doing a story on the Sensata plant, which Mitt Romney had a part of, and outsourced it. I mean, I couldn't believe the amount of response we got from that show back when I was on MSNBC. And I thought at that time, I'd always been pro-union and pro-worker, but there was a special kind of pulse going on right here. And I think that theme, if you go back and look at Obama on the stump in 2012, you'll see a constant pounding on the middle class. You'll see a constant pounding on outsourcing jobs and how he talked more about jobs than Hillary did. So fast forward to 2016, it was Trump that not only locked into that, but last night in his speech, I thought he was very aware of how he won the White House. This is the most talk we've ever seen on manufacturing ever by a president in a State of the Union address. He had numbers, he had solutions, he had identified the problems and all of the concerns that the American people have. And he also brought a focus. We're not going to let this happen anymore. We're going to do different deals. This is the fabric of his victory in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And that has been traditionally the Democratic firewall. You turn those states to Clinton and she's the president. And somewhere in there, this has really taken the legs away from the Democrats. Right now, I get a sense that the Democrats are searching for something other than FBI investigations, other than waiting for Trump to lie about something, trying to grab onto something that's going to resonate with the American people and independents, that's going to swing the momentum back to the Democrats. Right now, the president, whether you like it or not, has got the wind at his back. Last night, I thought he knocked down a lot of barriers, but there is a soft underbelly, as there is in every speech, and there is also an opening for the Democrats if they're smart enough to do this, as I see it. Number one, what got you to the dance? Health care. The Republicans at this moment do not have a replacement after months on end of saying that they were going to repeal and replace. It's easy to repeal. All you got to do is vote against it. All you got to do is vote to get rid of it. To replace it with what? Now, the president last night in his speech, once again, not a lot of detail. We heard about pre-existing conditions. Well, that's just a human thing to do. That's in the law right now. So why not keep Obamacare? It's an ego issue with the Republicans. They want to get rid of Obama's name any way they possibly can. They want to be able to signature a successful program, but they don't know how to get there. And they can't put their ego in their pocket and say, all right, we're going to keep the Affordable Care Act, but we're going to make it better, and this is how we're going to make it better. And there was no critical analysis by the media last night on exactly what Trump said about the replacement plan. Selling across state lines? Really? That's an avenue to junk insurance. We're going right back to where we were before. A bunch of profit for the insurance companies and not a whole lot of coverage for the American consumer. He wants a national marketplace. Well, a public option would take care of a national marketplace. And sooner or later, the Democrats are going to have to jump on this. This who's got the most testosterone to protect the country. We got to get over that. We got the most overwhelming military in the history of the world right now. If they were to take that $54 billion that they're going to put into the military budget and put it into healthcare, we'd have the best healthcare system in the world. But it's the political will in wanting to do it. Now, more on the healthcare. Pre-existing condition. All right, everybody wants that. Sell across state lines, we go to junk insurance. Here's a dandy. State Medicaid control. Is that what you're going to do? You're going to take block grants from the federal government and ship them to states like Wisconsin and let Scott Walker get his hands on federal money that's supposed to go to Medicaid? No. That'll go to where his priority list is, and he'll have a Republican legislative body to back him up. There will be so much fraud and there will be so much money out the window that people aren't going to be able to pay attention to. That's why it is a federal program, to make sure that the people do get served by it. And let me ask you the question, where's the march? Where's the march in Washington to get rid of Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security? Where's this? Had a cigar last night. Where is this effort by the people to change this? This is the road to privatization. What they're going to do is do state block funds to have Medicaid taken care of on a state level, and then the state legislators are going to come back and say, well, we can do a much better job with this if we just privatize it in our state. Our state's different from all the others. And so that's a disastrous road. This attack on drug prices. You know what? You've even got the Democrats voting against that. Cory Booker's a fraud on that because he takes a lot of money from the drug companies to get reelected as senator in New Jersey. There are no sacred cows here when it comes to health care in America. There's sinners everywhere, okay? We're either going to do this or we're not. And then, of course, notice how the president used the term legal reforms. Well, good old tort reform didn't work very good for the Bush administration, so now they're using legal reforms. All that is protecting doctors and hospitals so they don't get sued, and it's going to be less in accord with protecting consumer interests. So we're back to junk insurance proposals. We're back to a national marketplace that isn't going to serve, and we're back to the road to privatization when it comes to state block Medicare. That's what the president talked about last night. Now, if the Democrats don't see that as a soft underbelly, and if they don't see that as an attackable position, because this is not where the American people are, instead of all of these clamoring about investigations and how Trump got elected, this, that, and the other, no. The American people want to move on. And I think that health care is still the issue that they got to jump on. The other thing that they have to get after is infrastructure. Both the Republicans and the Democrats, or should I say the president and the Democrats, have got an infrastructure package on the table of $1 trillion. There's different priorities. There's different ways of doing it. But notice how the Republicans as a group have not come out and said, we're going to support the president on this. They don't want to spend the money. They don't want to spend any money. They're these grand old, same old party. And so I thought the president offered up something for the Democrats to jump on last night. But as far as President Trump is concerned, he stayed in the wheelhouse that got him elected. He knew who got him elected. He made a pledge to those folks. He masterfully, I think, connected jobs in the economy to border security and immigration. That connects with the middle of the country. And so from that perspective, notice how there was very little about the Middle East. There was very little about Russia. And I think the reason being is, number one, Trump really doesn't know what he wants to do with Syria yet. I think he had some real influence from General Flynn, but that, of course, is gone now. I think McMaster is more of a hawk. I don't think there's going to be much change between the policy towards Syria between the Obama administration and the Trump administration. At least it doesn't appear to be. There was no talk about Russia because there's too much at stake. And Trump was smart enough to introduce that separately at a different level and not to really give the world too much to think about when it came to foreign relations. It was a very nationalistic, very domestic focused speech. And I think that there were some real high points for the president. I mean, talking about child care and paid leave, how could the Democrats not get up and scream about that? They've been wanting that for years. So he gave him a little bit of leg on that. But I think overall it was a very good speech. Most Americans liked it. It was declarative. And one final point I want to make. I did like the fact, the way the president talked about our anniversary coming up at 250 years, a quarter of, 250 years. That's how old we're going to be in 9 years. He's not going to be president in 9 years. He might not be president in 5 years. But he got the country thinking about where we could be, successes we've had in the past, and how we have to think big, and how we have to be more grandiose about our accomplishments, and believe in the future more. And I liked all that. I mean, I don't know how you could not like it. It was very Reagan-esque in that regard. So I thought the speech was a success. It's only a speech, but for sure, he came a long way from blowing it.
When you talk about Trump, and he really made that move on manufacturing with workers, the middle class people, he says he's going to make sure to use American steel in these pipelines that he approved. So you kind of have a double-edged sword there, because obviously Democrats can't go along with the pipeline, but they it's American.
Yeah, and I thought his story about Harley Davidson was magnificent. I mean, it was basically talking about how American companies are so used to getting beat down. They weren't even asking for anything, but he was. I thought that was when it comes to jobs and sticking up for workers and industry, I thought that was a very masterful point by the president.
Well, what I was going to say, too, on that is, if he continues to come through, if he comes through and they see results, they see those jobs, do the Democrats have any recourse?
Well, the Democrats have got to figure out how to get their footing in the Rust Belt. They got to, this has been taken away from them. That narrative's been taken away. Now, Trump has to prove that these bilateral trade agreements are going to work. And I thought it was very good how the president broke out Canada from Mexico in talking about NAFTA. Our trading situation, as I said at CPAC, is far different with Canada than it is with any other country. And so there's some real building blocks there for it only to get better. But the firewall that I was talking about, the Rust Belt, the Democrats got to find their legs there. And Keith Ellison said the other day, if we're going to be the party of the working people, we got to be the party of the working people. Well, Employee Free Choice Act. Every union is for it. Every working shop is for it. Well, go for it. Make the president say no. That will win those workers back. Keep their feet to the fire on health care. Come forward with a better health care plan for union workers in America. I mean, there's some things the Democrats can do. You got to get on the kitchen table, get in that wheelhouse, and don't let them take all the food.
Absolutely. I guess, I'm sorry, is there anything else that really stuck out to you last night? You really kind of covered all the big issues that I was thinking about.
Well, I also thought that the president made a very profound point about how quiet voices spoke up. And what was the message to the Democrats there? The message to the Democrats, I thought, was, I had my pulse on the people and you didn't. I knew they were going to speak up. I knew they were out there. I had an idea. This is Trump talking. And I think that message to the Democrats was, you missed it.
Well,
you missed this rebellion. You missed. And I don't buy into this, that Trump tapped into the anger. No. Trump tapped into the livelihood of people. Trump tapped into the things that the Democrats used to tap into, but they've lost focus in that regard.
Well, and I was going to say, to that point, it goes back to those, like you said, the voices that nobody else heard. And I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
Well, I think it was a little bit stunning that Trump was so aware of how he got there. It was not a grandiose, hey, I'm greater than the world type of speech, and I think some people were expecting to see that. And it had some theater to it when he seriously showed some emotion to give praise to the lost Navy SEAL in the most recent raid on Yemen. I mean, I don't know how you can keep a dry eye and be an American when you see something like that. So it was Reagan-esque. I think it did begin to bring the country together. He challenged the Congress to work together, to come together. And I guess every president does that, but it sounded like a first for Trump.
Well, and on that note, do you see, now is it up to him to move forward and maybe not be a different
Well,
person?
that's a great question from the standpoint. Keep in mind, Trump is not bought and paid for by anybody. So he's now a free agent. He's told both parties to do this. This is what he wants. And he's got the American people behind him. I made the case on with a radio talker in the middle of the country. Trump doesn't need the Congress. He's got the American people behind him. He's on a high right now. This is a restart. This is a re-jump. And I think that the Congress has to make a determination. Man, I don't want to go home to those town halls anymore. I better embrace some of what this guy's talking about because people are buying this. The other underbelly, I think, for the Democrats is probably how far is he going to go cutting regulations in the EPA. But that's a long and narrative thing. You got to get to get the attention of the people, you got to get to their kitchen table. An EPA regulation doesn't get in the kitchen.
Absolutely. Well, cool. I think that's good for today.
Ed Schultz News and Commentary.